to talk about today?
So let's talk about how to get cases settled in this environment that we're in now.
Okay, well, how do we do that? How do we get cases settled if we aren't going to court trying cases?
Well, thankfully, the courts have been open for us to have motion calendar, meaning if there are issues throughout litigation, we have had access to get to the courts. But there are many ways that cases settle, even in this environment and other environments. Cases can settle just by the parties agreeing on a settlement amount. Those things continue to happen, thankfully. You can also settle by things like mediation or arbitration. And maybe we could just take a few minutes to discuss what those things are.
Yeah.
So mediation is a conference where the parties get together and a neutral party hears the facts from both sides. And then both parties break out into separate rooms and you try to get to a point where you meet in the middle. But the mediator really has no authority. The mediator does not, there's no reason to rule, cannot rule and tell you what you have to do or should not do. But usually it's a good exercise. Even if the case doesn't settle right then, it does get the parties closer together. So maybe you could just tell us a little bit about arbitration.
Yeah, so arbitration is a process to resolve a case where the arbitrator does get to make a decision. There are typically two types of arbitration. It's binding or non-binding, which means the arbitrator, or kind of the judge, hears all the evidence and then comes up with a decision. And the decision is, he awards somebody money or no money or whatever his findings are. And if it's a non-binding arbitration, the parties get that and then take that into consideration when they are negotiating the case for resolution. But if it's binding, then you're bound by that determination. So it's kind of a more efficient, less expensive alternative to actually taking the case to trial, and is a good alternative to what's happening right now because the courts are so backed up. So between mediation and arbitration, those are a couple options. And then just trying to settle on your own, that happens a lot pre-suit, where we negotiate with the adjusters and try to reach a settlement. But once you're in suit, arbitration and mediation are good alternatives.
And thankfully, the courts are starting to open back up. Civil trials have taken place for the last 2 weeks in Palm Beach County, and it looks like we're going to get a few days each week in March. So long as the numbers stay controlled, it looks like the courts are opening back up. We are certainly anxious to get back in trial, but thankfully there are these other methods of settlement that we can rely on.